with the fan in the background because it is the middle of the night when I'm able to record today. So, try to ignore that. But I wanted to talk about this awesome book. So today we are talking about crystal grids. So this book, if you could not guess, as the title suggests, it talks about crystal grids, and I absolutely loved it. It goes over some information that I really haven't found in a lot of places, because it talks a little bit about like what some of the crystals are good for, but also it talks about like the shapes, and like there's like 6 different types and they're used for different things and different points in the crystal grid. Like each crystal grid uses like variations of like kind of these shapes, and they are utilized differently. And then there's also obviously the grids themselves, and talks about like the different placements. And then there are about 30 different example ones for you to try. So it shows like the crystals, the layout, because there's like the different types. So you have like the seed of life versus like a kind of triquetra kind of deal versus just like a spiral and a circle. There's a lot of different shapes, and the examples have a few for each one. So needless to say, I gave this a 5 out of 5. I absolutely loved this book. I have not found a lot of crystal grid like videos or blogs or books that have been particularly very helpful, and this one was surprisingly very good. And like, I am so stoked to go get a copy one of these days and actually start to use it, because it is so good. So I went into it thinking it was gonna not be that great. I thought it was going to be like the one I recently talked about, the DIY for Witches book. I thought it was gonna be like that, where it's kind of more like a coffee table kind of a book. And I was like, oh god, it's not gonna be that good, because it looks very much the same. Like, the vibe of the two is almost identical when you pick them up. However, this was surprisingly so good. And like, the other thing that like kind of tricked me out was about the author. Like, it just felt very like trendy, and like, oh yeah, like you're from like California, and then you open up this shop, and of course then you get to be this huge celebrity with it and whatever. Like, I was so worried that it was just gonna suck. And it didn't. It was actually one of the best written books on crystal grids I've ever come across. Like, you can tell the author knows so much when it comes to it. And it's not overly complicated either, where you get bored. And like, the pacing of the book goes by so fast. Again, it's laid out similar to like a coffee table kind of a book. Mostly pictures, not a whole lot of words. But once in a while you can find a book where it has a lower word count, but it really packs a punch, and this is one of those. Like, the author genuinely knows a lot and has experienced a lot with crystal grids, and I cannot wait to get a copy of this and start to make my own crystal grids. I love that there are like full examples of how to set them up, and they have like different ways to like kind of enhance it. There's like kind of like spell suggestions, for lack of exactly what it was called in the book, to do, you know, like maybe add this herb or do that or whatever. So overall, I mean, it's got success, self-love, like there's a little bit of, there's protection one, like there is just a little bit of everything in here. And it's not, again, it's not really going to overwhelm, but it's not going to underwhelm either, because if you really do read every single word in there, there's a lot of really good stuff. And again, it doesn't feel very overwhelming with it either. And the pictures turned out beautiful, by the way. The artwork, like the photography for it, amazing. So beautiful. If you couldn't guess, I think if you are interested in doing crystal work, if you want to get into crystal grids, this is a fantastic place to start, or just pick up in general, because honestly, like, most like witches are going to eventually get into crystal grids and just crystals in general. This is a really good book to read, but specifically if you're wanting to start doing crystal grids, this is such a good place to start. It is not overwhelming on information. You might want, you know, a book on like explaining the crystals a little bit, because again, like, it goes over it a little bit, but not a whole lot. There's some better resources for that part, but I feel like if you're getting into crystal grids, you've already got books on crystals anyways. And this is just such a good book. I cannot wait to get a copy of it. So anyways, I would love to know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons. If you want to support me and get access to exclusive content, it's patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day, even if it is these semi-crappy voiceovers with my heater in the background, because it's like currently 4 in the morning. I had to wake up just to record this when I'm going back to bed, because it was technically solstice night as of recording this, because that's how ahead of life I am. So yeah, it's a little bit late, or early, depending on how you want to look at that. So anyways, until next time, thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, appeasing the algorithm gods, and coming along for all of the books. And until next time, blessed be.